My parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had and keep me perpetually single. Now I think I've met the love of my life, and he really wants to meet my family. What do I do? Posted by you/fun following 7679. I, 25F, was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result, I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever boyfriend, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my boyfriend, then 20M, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fistfight. We managed to stop them, and my boyfriend stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my boyfriend was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother, claiming that a guy like that was no good for me because he'd end up treating me the same way. I was shocked that my boyfriend could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet, and I'd never met or heard of anyone not liking him. But when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I could believe whatever I wanted before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors and said my dad had saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later, during my sophomore year. Part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last boyfriend, so I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents. From the moment she laid eyes on him, every word my mom spoke to him dripped with fake friendliness and subtle jabs implying she didn't approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking why I had decided to date him and brought up other guys, asking why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she mentioned were completely made up. At this point, it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my boyfriend and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chimed in and demanded to know how a boy who couldn't support himself financially was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, both working part-time jobs, so this question was really insane. He responded by saying he had already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he was just going to leave now. Within minutes, he was gone, and I was blocked, again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong and just wanted to test his confidence, as any parents would. But I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they had chased away, and they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that. Fast forward a little, and I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically, the same thing happened. I made it through college unable to find a long-term boyfriend purely because of my parents. I did meet my current boyfriend, 28M, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I always had a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I don't know what to do. I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my boyfriend about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Relevant comments. Commenter. By boyfriend number 3, why didn't you prep him? At least do so with your current boyfriend. Hey, so listen, you need to know that my parents are completely nuts and manipulative. They chased away my 2 previous boyfriends upon first meeting them. I'm not exaggerating. If it's up to me, you'll never meet them, as I'm afraid they'll chase you away too. But if you still want to meet them, please be prepared to face X and Y, explain what they did to the first 3, and who knows what else they have up their sleeves. It's important that you're fully aware of the situation. Ops response. I kind of glossed over boyfriend number 3 to avoid making the post too long, but I did actually try to warn him. However, their tactics had changed somewhat, and they came off much worse than I had told him they would. He didn't block or break up with me immediately but eventually said he didn't see a future with me anymore after a few days, as he didn't want such insane people tied to his family. This is why I've been afraid to even warn my current BF about them. I'm not sure if that would even be enough. Commenter 2. Do you know why they've done this? Wrong religion, wrong race? Do they want you to take care of them permanently and never marry? Do they want to arrange the marriage? I think it would help, at least a little, to know what's going on from his point of view. Parents are crazy is different from parents really want an ex-partner and are going to freak out. Ops response. I thought that could possibly play a role. I am white, and my first boyfriend was black. But my mom seemed more hostile to boyfriends number 2 and number 3, despite both of them being white as well. My current boyfriend is mixed, black and white. We aren't particularly religious either, so I know that can't be it. Part of me has considered just telling him my parents prefer something else for my partner, but my parents are racist seems like it would be just as bad as my parents are crazy. Commenter 3. Do you think your sister would be willing to help you talk to your parents about this? What are her thoughts on it? Have you met your boyfriend's family? Ops response. My sister and I aren't particularly close. We aren't enemies or anything like that, but she has been pretty indifferent to me while living her own life. I love my nieces to death and let her take advantage of that, but I doubt she'd be willing to talk to my parents about this with me. I met my boyfriend's family within a few months of us dating, actually. They love me to death, and we spend nearly every holiday and birthday with them and his other siblings' families. Op adds an edit to her post. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all the comments and noticed some recurring questions that I wanted to address. I'm not fully no contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said that family does not turn on each other over minor disagreements involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'd pay for my dorm room or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past boyfriends when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we had company over wasn't something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off boyfriends 2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my boyfriend's house today after work and will tell him everything. I'm terrified he will still want to meet them. Just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk. But you all are right. He has a right to know and make his own decision. Edit 2. I told him and even showed him this post. To make a long story short, he still would like to meet them but thanked me for telling him, as he always figured something was seriously wrong. My parents host dinners for our family every Sunday, and we will be attending this one. I suppose I'll make a new post with an update afterward. Update 5 days later. I meant to make this update a lot sooner, but since my last post, a lot has happened. I truly appreciate all the comments I received calling me out for hiding my parents' insanity from my boyfriend and encouraging me to be honest with him. My boyfriend is pretty involved now, so I guess I should give him a fake name. I'll call him Ethan. I sat Ethan down and told him about my parents and how they had run off my previous boyfriends, before showing him my original post, as many recommended. Fortunately, he didn't seem to care that I hadn't told him, but he did agree with many commenters that my parents were more than just insane, they were outright abusive. Although he understood how I felt, he still said he would like to meet them, both to see it for himself and because he felt there was an underlying reason for their behavior. My parents host family dinner every Sunday, which I've been attending on the weeks I'm not hanging out with Ethan, so we agreed he would come to the next one. When Sunday came and we arrived at my parents' house, my anxiety was through the roof. Ethan had agreed to leave with me the moment things started to get out of hand, but with my parents, that could have easily been as soon as we walked through the front door. My parents were surprisingly very nice, though. My dad actually seemed excited to see Ethan, and my mom fawned over her daughter bringing home such a handsome, confident-looking man. I couldn't understand what was happening. Ethan even shot me a look a couple of times, as if to silently ask if he was missing something, because my parents were actually lovely. I want to provide a play-by-play of the entire night, but the post would just be too long. The point is, my parents had done a complete 180 from their previous behavior, and it made me look and feel crazy for trying to warn Ethan about them ahead of time. During dinner, my mom said she was so happy to see her daughter had finally found someone who wasn't judgmental and was willing to give me a chance because of the person I am today, as the past doesn't matter. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Ethan said he didn't know of anything in my past that might be a cause for concern, and my parents exchanged a concerned look, as if it was rehearsed. My dad asked him why he thought my previous relationships had failed, and he said he was under the impression they got scared away after meeting my parents. My mother looked at me with disappointment on her face and said, "Op, is that really what you told him?" I was at a loss for words, but Ethan was not. He said it was pretty clear they were trying to plant seeds of doubt in him about our relationship, but he wasn't interested, as he knew me well enough to understand my character and that even if there was something serious in my past, parents who loved and supported me, or even just wanted grandchildren, would keep it a secret to avoid ruining my relationship. My dad said he already had 2 grandchildren and motioned toward my sister, who didn't have her kids with her that evening. Ethan said my dad must have been very supportive of my sister for her to be able to start a family, while he tried to run off any guy I brought home. My dad's response was very casual but extremely shocking. He said, "Of course, she's actually mine." Everyone was quiet for a few moments until Ethan spoke up and said that now all the abuse they'd only put me through is starting to make sense. My mom said he was spouting nonsense and that I had not been abused in any way. She then looked at me and admitted her marriage had a rocky start, but both she and my father had moved past that. I was too busy replaying my entire life in my head to say anything. The previous boyfriends, the lack of support for my social outings growing up, the volleyball games I had to have a friend drive me to because my parents were always too busy, the rage I was always at risk of facing if I ever spoke my mind. All while my sister got the opposite. I started to cry harder than I ever had before. Ethan immediately announced that we were leaving. My dad demanded we stay where we were so we could clear things up, but Ethan ignored him as he pulled me out of my chair and led me away. My mom screamed at me not to leave and that this guy was trying to isolate me from my family. I yelled back that if anyone had been trying to isolate me, it was her, for my whole life. As we drove back to Ethan's place, my mom sent me several text messages cussing me out, saying one mistake doesn't change the fact that my dad loved, supported, and raised me, and that he would always be my real father. Ethan said he's not my dad, he's an abusive, controlling jerk who was taking his insecurities out on me. I ended up blocking both of my parents' numbers because they were saying some truly awful things to me, both about myself and Ethan. Ethan said he was expecting them to be crazy, but this was far worse than he had anticipated. He said I need to go into therapy immediately and that he will pay for anything my insurance doesn't cover. My parents showed up at my apartment twice yesterday to demand I come out and speak to them, but I've been staying at Ethan's all weekend and will likely be here all week. I'm not sure if this is the update that was wanted. I had countless people enraged at me for being spineless and not standing up to my parents, and while I had planned on doing so, that's not what happened. I don't know what is going to happen with my parents or where I go from here, but now that the holiday is over, I can spend some time looking for a good therapist. Relevant comments. Commenter. Sorry you're going through so much right now. Also, sorry that people are downvoting you and calling your experience fake. Reddit hive mind can be needlessly cruel sometimes. Good on your boyfriend for helping you get through that, he sounds like a great partner to have. I'm not in a position to give advice one way or another. One thing I'm curious about is, have you ever talked to your sister about how your parents treat you? Does she engage and side with them? Is she just silent and complicit, or does she not see anything wrong? I think your plan to go low/no contact is a great idea for now, but maybe reach out to your sister and see how she perceived the events of that night and what her thoughts were about previous boyfriends. She could side with them since she has been treated fairly, or she could just be blind to what is going on. Wishing you the best. Ops response. I don't really mind people calling it fake. I've seen a lot worse on this site, so I know people are prone to hyper-analyze anything that doesn't make sense to them. My sister has generally stayed out of my disputes with our parents. Growing up, I never fully wrapped my head around how different things were for us, and she never rubbed any differences in our upbringing in my face. We've never been particularly close, so she hasn't gone out of her way to talk to me about these incidents, which is why I've generally left her out of both this and my last post, but talking to her might be worthwhile. Commenter 2. You expect us to believe that you're 25 and have just realized that your parents treated you badly while coddling your sister? Like an epiphany? Nah, I don't buy it. Commenter 3. As someone whose grandmother did that with one son out of 2 and one daughter out of 3, I believe it. She was even like that with us grandkids, with me being her favorite granddaughter, which she would tell people right in front of my cousins, and one of my boy cousins, 8 years younger than me, being her favorite grandson. I didn't realize she treated me differently or better until my mom started having kids with my stepdad, and I saw it with my siblings in my preteens. When things are normalized, you don't question it.